I think the whole idea of the GOAT and the greatest all time, that's really hard to determine. I mean, how many people in here saw Sweetwater Clifton play? You know, I didn't. You know. Most of us didn't, and he was awesome, but that was back in the early 50s without the 24-second clock. I think the different eras of the game, you know, the addition of the clock, and, you know, finally the three-point shot, you know, the game has had eras. And
Kareem Abdul Jabbar doesn't talk about greatness the way fans do, and that's what makes his list matter. He played against legends, studied the history before him, and carried the responsibility of being the league's standard for 2 decades. Kareem never confused highlights with impact or popularity with dominance. His definition of greatness was strict. Did you make winning inevitable, no matter the era, the system, or the pressure? That standard eliminates a lot of famous names. The players Kareem rates at the very top aren't here because of stats alone, rings alone, or cultural influence alone. They're here because they controlled games in different ways, solved basketball problems others couldn't, and held up when the margin for error disappeared. This isn't a debate list, it's a measurement list. These are the players Kareem Abdul Jabbar believes truly define basketball greatness, and why, from his perspective, they stand above everyone else who ever touched the game. Bill Russell. Bill Russell sits at the foundation of Kareem Abdul Jabbar's definition of greatness, not because of aesthetics or individual dominance, but because Russell solved the hardest problem in basketball over and over again: how to make winning unavoidable. Kareem has always been clear about this point. Before he ever measured players by skill or longevity, he measured them by impact on outcomes. By that standard, Russell wasn't just great, he was singular. Russell's career doesn't resemble modern stardom. He didn't chase scoring titles. He didn't build his legacy around offensive volume. What he did instead was shape the game around defense, positioning, and psychological control. 11 championships in 13 seasons weren't a coincidence of talent or circumstance. To Kareem, they were evidence of a player who understood basketball as a system long before most players did. What Kareem respected most was Russell's ability to control possessions without touching the ball. Russell's defense wasn't reactive. He didn't hunt blocks for spectacle. He angled drives, redirected shots, and forced opponents into decisions they didn't want to make. Kareem has repeatedly emphasized that elite defense is about anticipation, seeing the play before it happens, and eliminating options early. Russell mastered that skill at a level that still hasn't been replicated. Rebounding was another separator. Russell didn't just secure rebounds, he ended momentum. He controlled where the ball went after missed shots, often turning defensive stops into immediate offensive advantages through outlet passes. Kareem valued that because it meant Russell didn't just stop opponents, he punished them for missing. There was also a level of restraint Kareem admired deeply. Russell understood his role so completely that he never felt tempted to expand it unnecessarily. He knew his team didn't need him to score 30 points to win. They needed him to anchor defense, communicate assignments, and enforce standards. Kareem believed that kind of self-awareness was rarer than any physical gift. Leadership mattered just as much. Russell captained teams filled with Hall of Famers, yet his authority didn't come from volume or ego. He set expectations through preparation and accountability. When games tightened, teammates trusted Russell because he had already proven that he would deliver stops when they mattered most. Kareem respected that because pressure reveals whether leadership is performative or functional. Context also mattered to Kareem's evaluation. Russell played in an era of constant scrutiny and hostility, carrying burdens far beyond basketball. He faced racial abuse on the road, criticism at home, and expectations that went unchecked by media protection. Yet his performance never fractured. Kareem, who later navigated similar pressures, recognized the mental discipline required to remain focused under those conditions. Importantly, Kareem didn't romanticize Russell. He understood the league was different. Fewer teams, different rules. But Kareem rejected the idea that Russell's dominance was inflated by era. In Kareem's view, dominance isn't defined by numbers, it's defined by competitive leverage. Russell consistently tilted games and series in Boston's favor, regardless of opponent. That consistency mattered more than any stat line. Kareem often contrasted Russell with players who posted enormous individual numbers, but struggled to translate them into championships. Russell was the opposite. His influence increased as stakes rose. Finals games, elimination games, close fourth quarters. Russell's presence mattered more, not less. That's why Russell appears first on Kareem's list. To Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Bill Russell wasn't the greatest player because he dominated the box score. He was the greatest because he mastered the most difficult responsibility in basketball, making team success inevitable without needing the spotlight. That standard became Kareem's reference point and the measuring stick for everyone who followed.
Well, first of all, he would have to defend me. That's where we start.
Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon earns his place on Kareem Abdul Jabbar's list for a reason that goes deeper than championships or highlights. He represented the ideal evolution of the center position. Kareem didn't see Hakeem as a throwback big or a physical anomaly. He saw him as a problem solver. When Hakeem entered the league in 1984, Kareem was already in the final stage of his career. He had faced every archetype of center imaginable. What separated Hakeem immediately was that his dominance wasn't borrowed from size alone. It was built on technique, balance, and preparation, the same principles Kareem had relied on for 2 decades. Footwork was the foundation. Hakeem didn't rush post moves. He didn't rely on a single counter. Every spin, fake, and pivot flowed into the next option. Kareem respected that because it made Hakeem's scoring repeatable under pressure. Defenses couldn't guess. They couldn't overplay one move. And when playoff scouting narrowed margins, Hakeem's efficiency didn't disappear. That mattered to Kareem. Kareem believed the most reliable stars were the ones whose games aged well, not just physically, but tactically. Hakeem's offense didn't depend on speed or vertical explosiveness. It depended on angles, timing, and patience. That's why Kareem viewed him as the center most capable of surviving any era. The postseason validated that belief. During the 1994 and 1995 playoff runs, Hakeem didn't just win titles, he dismantled elite competition. He outplayed Patrick Ewing in the finals. He neutralized David Robinson, the league MVP, in the Western Conference Finals. He controlled Shaquille O'Neal in the finals with positioning rather than brute strength. To Kareem, that stretch wasn't coincidence. It was proof that preparation beats raw force when stakes rise. Defense was just as important. Hakeem didn't chase blocks for highlights. He anticipated drives, cut off angles early, and recovered without fouling. Kareem valued that restraint. He believed elite defense was about removing options before they became threats, not reacting late. Hakeem embodied that philosophy on every possession. There was also an element of discipline Kareem admired. Hakeem didn't seek validation through volume scoring or public attention. He stayed within structure, trusted teammates, and let advantages compound naturally. Kareem saw that as a mark of basketball maturity, understanding when dominance needed to be asserted and when it needed to be contained. Culturally, Kareem also respected Hakeem's approach to leadership. Hakeem led without theatrics. He set standards through consistency and accountability. When pressure intensified, he became calmer, not louder. Kareem believed that behavior was a competitive advantage in itself, especially in the postseason. When Kareem evaluates greatness, he looks for alignment between skill, intelligence, and responsibility. Hakeem had all three. To Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon wasn't just the best center of his generation. He was proof that mastery of fundamentals, when paired with adaptability, could dominate the league without ever losing control. That made Hakeem not just great, but essential to Kareem's understanding of basketball greatness.
I'd like to give thanks to God for this opportunity. I think as I was introduced, you can see that my career really is a dream career.
Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson represents the rare kind of greatness. Kareem Abdul Jabbar valued immediately, a player who could control the entire environment of a game without forcing it. Kareem didn't judge Magic by scoring totals or individual dominance. He judged him by how effortlessly the game bent around him. When Magic entered the league in 1979, Kareem was already an established superstar. What stood out wasn't Magic's confidence or size for a guard, it was his understanding of responsibility. Magic didn't treat possessions as opportunities to shine. He treated them as moments to organize 5 players at once. Kareem recognized that instantly because it's the same trait he valued in great centers, the ability to reduce chaos. Magic's greatest strength in Kareem's eyes was pace control. He knew when to accelerate and when to slow everything down. Showtime looked fast, but it was calculated. Magic pushed tempo only when defenders were compromised. When structure was needed, he pulled the game back into alignment. Kareem valued that because it protected big men from unnecessary fatigue and allowed advantages to compound instead of reset. Their partnership on the Lakers confirmed that respect. Kareem didn't need to fight for touches with Magic. Magic understood where Kareem was most dangerous and delivered the ball early, cleanly, and on time. That timing mattered. It meant Kareem could score without absorbing excess contact, conserve energy, and dominate late in games. Kareem often emphasized that great guards don't just pass, they anticipate. Magic did that better than anyone Kareem ever played with. What also separated Magic was leadership without tension. Magic carried responsibility without burdening teammates. He demanded accountability through clarity, not confrontation. Kareem appreciated that because championship teams don't survive emotional volatility. They survive structure. Magic kept the Lakers aligned even when expectations were enormous. Defensively, Kareem respected Magic's commitment as well. Magic wasn't a lockdown defender, but he understood team defense. He communicated, rotated, and rebounded from the guard position. Kareem believed that true basketball intelligence shows up in areas players aren't celebrated for. Magic consistently handled those responsibilities without complaint. There was also a resilience Kareem admired deeply. Magic faced intense pressure early in his career and never retreated from it. Whether it was stepping into the finals as a rookie or carrying the Lakers through transitions, he accepted leadership rather than deflecting it. Kareem believed that willingness to shoulder direction, not just results, defined true greatness. Importantly, Kareem never saw Magic as a product of flair. He saw him as a strategist disguised as a showman. The joy was real, but the discipline underneath it was what made it sustainable. Kareem respected players who could entertain without destabilizing winning structure. Magic mastered that balance. To Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Magic Johnson wasn't just one of the greatest players ever. He was the clearest example that basketball greatness could be collaborative, controlled, and still dominant. A standard Kareem believed few players in history ever reached.
Well, you know, when you're good friends, you don't care about his money.
I see.
I just
Okay.
want the clothes and the sneakers.
Larry Bird. Larry Bird earns his place on Kareem Abdul Jabbar's list because he proved something Kareem valued deeply. Greatness doesn't require physical advantage if understanding is elite. Kareem never evaluated Bird through the lens of athleticism. He evaluated him through problem solving. From the moment Bird entered the league in 1979, it was obvious he wasn't built like a traditional superstar. He wasn't fast. He didn't jump high. He didn't overpower defenders. And yet, defenses kept failing against him. Kareem respected that immediately because it meant Bird was winning before the ball even arrived. Bird's greatest strength, in Kareem's eyes, was anticipation. He read defenders early. He knew where help was coming from. He positioned himself to force bad choices rather than react to them. Kareem believed that the highest basketball intelligence shows up in how few adjustments a player needs to make mid-possession. Bird rarely needed them because he had already accounted for what was coming. That understanding translated directly to winning. Bird didn't chase shots to establish control. He dictated games by deciding who should be involved and when. Kareem respected that because it mirrored his own approach in the post, forcing defenses into dilemmas instead of attacking them blindly. When Bird scored, it was usually because the defense had already made its mistake. The results validated that approach. 3 straight MVPs from 1984 to 1986, multiple championships, consistent playoff excellence against elite competition. Kareem didn't see those achievements as coincidence. He saw them as the outcome of someone who mastered spacing, timing, and decision-making at a level few players ever reached. What Kareem also respected was Bird's discipline under pressure. Bird didn't speed up late in games. He didn't hunt moments. He allowed pressure to narrow his focus rather than overwhelm it. Kareem believed that postseason basketball exposes emotional weaknesses faster than skill deficiencies. Bird showed very few of either. Defensively, Bird earned Kareem's respect in quieter ways. He wasn't a lockdown defender, but he was always in the right place. He communicated, rotated, and rebounded. Kareem valued defenders who prevented problems instead of reacting to them. Bird fit that description perfectly. There was also a competitiveness Kareem understood. Bird talked, he challenged, he tested opponents mentally, but it was never empty. Everything Bird said was backed by preparation and execution. Kareem respected that alignment between confidence and follow-through. To him, confidence without substance was noise. Bird never crossed that line. Importantly, Kareem never saw Bird as a product of ERA or system. He saw him as a player whose game would translate anywhere because it wasn't built on physical advantage. It was built on clarity and efficiency, traits Kareem believed age and rule changes couldn't erase. To Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Larry Bird wasn't great because he overcame limitations. He was great because he turned understanding into an advantage so consistently that limitations stopped mattering. That level of control earned Kareem's highest respect.
Had a good left hand around the basket, and they always, if you watch, if I remember the game correctly, they were forcing me left to help.
LeBron James. LeBron James earns his place on Kareem Abdul Jabbar's list because he represents a form of greatness Kareem believes is exceptionally difficult to sustain. Dominance built on responsibility, durability, and adaptation across eras. Kareem didn't evaluate LeBron through highlights or isolated moments. He evaluated him through burden. From the moment LeBron entered the league in 2003, the expectations were unprecedented. Kareem understood what that weight felt like. He had lived under generational scrutiny himself. What impressed Kareem wasn't that LeBron met expectations early, it was that he carried them for 2 decades without collapse. LeBron didn't just score, he organized entire teams. Kareem has often emphasized that true greatness reveals itself in how much responsibility a player can absorb without losing effectiveness. LeBron functioned as scorer, playmaker, transition engine, and defensive coordinator simultaneously. That wasn't stylistic dominance. It was structural dominance. Kareem respected players who could hold that many roles without breaking team alignment. Longevity mattered deeply to Kareem's evaluation. LeBron didn't rely on one version of himself. As his athletic peak softened, his understanding sharpened. He adjusted shot selection, pacing, and defensive engagement to remain effective. Kareem valued that evolution because it showed LeBron wasn't chasing identity, he was preserving impact. Playoff basketball reinforced that respect. LeBron's ability to raise his level under postseason pressure aligned with Kareem's standards. He didn't disappear when schemes tightened or margins narrowed. He became more deliberate, more patient. Kareem believed that postseason greatness isn't about dominance in bursts. It's about controlling series over time. LeBron consistently did that. There was also a leadership dimension Kareem acknowledged. LeBron didn't always lead quietly. His presence was constant. Expectations followed him into every locker room. Kareem understood how difficult it is to balance authority with trust when the spotlight never dims. LeBron's teams didn't always succeed, but they never lacked direction. Kareem respected that clarity. Defensively, Kareem valued LeBron's situational intelligence. LeBron didn't guard one position. He guarded problems. He switched, rotated, and anticipated when it mattered most. Kareem believed defense was about versatility and timing more than reputation. LeBron's best defensive moments came when games were being decided, not when highlights were being chased. Importantly, Kareem never framed LeBron's greatness as effortless. He saw it as managed. LeBron maintained excellence through preparation, adjustment, and awareness of physical limits. Kareem understood how rare that discipline was, especially for a player asked to do so much for so long. To Kareem Abdul Jabbar, LeBron James wasn't great because of singular peaks or isolated championships. He was great because he proved that carrying responsibility, year after year, team after team, era after era, could still produce winning basketball at the highest level. That endurance completed Kareem's definition of all-time greatness.